right. So a couple things here. Number one, I'm gonna go over, kind of look forward to next week. So next week you got Pennies for Angels. That's gonna be on next Friday. That's your early release day. What you do for that, and like the old story behind it, of course, is that kids would bring in so many pennies that the teachers would have to count change for the entire class period. And then that would be that you wouldn't have to do anything for the whole period. You get a free day. Just modified that the years that I was here. Basically, as long as you bring in $1, okay, at least $1. If you choose to bring more and you want to donate more, that's very good. It's a good cause. What it does is it goes and it helps kind of some kids that are in different situations, whether they be in the high school or whether they're outside in the community and other campuses. They're here at Stephenville. It's a great way for the NHS to kind of give back to Stephenville. It's always been a very, very good program. Always helped many people that were, kind of struggling at the time going into the holidays. So anyway, if you bring $1 at least, then that would equate for this class to give like $120 to it. And then by the time it gets done, they raise, a couple $1,000, which is really good. What we do is I put on, sometimes it's kind of good to watch some kind of kid movies that are there. But we watch Freebird. I don't know if any of you have ever seen that one. That's the one about, it's like a kind of like a Pixar deal to where this turkey time travels.
Oh,
yeah, and he goes and he tries to stop the idea of eating turkeys for Thanksgiving. It's pretty funny, pretty entertaining as far as that goes. So anyway, we'll watch that during that day. If you all bring $1, and for that half day, you'll be able to to get a free day based upon that. But anyway, that'll be next Friday. Okay. The other thing looking forward to next week is we're going to go ahead and get in chapter 4 today. We'll do chapter 5. Sorry, not chapter 4, section 4 today, and section 5 on Monday. And then we'll have our test over chapter 12 on Wednesday of next week. Okay. So make sure, again, we're kind of staying up with what we have and what we've got done there. So today, just like the other days, I'm going to ask you a couple questions. You'll get out your notes, and then you'll go ahead and be able to fill in those through your notes. If a question comes up that is, again, highlight it to kind of emphasize the point of it being important. And then if I don't have it in there, I would add it to my notes as far as we go. So we're going to look back at our notes from chapter 12, section 3.
Wait, so that anything. So every kid has to bring $1, or it has to be like how many kids are here?
What I'm looking for is that every kid in this class brings $1. Yeah, that's
For your class or every class?
well. Every teacher has different things that are on there. But anyway, that's just what I'm asking you to do is that's what I'm looking for. So no. You bring $1. I'm going to highly encourage you to bring $1 as compared to pennies. You're going to, like this year with COVID, all you're going to do is drop it in the bucket anyway. You know what I mean? And then they're going to come by and take the bucket, and then they're going to take it up to the front. So, all right. So, chapter 12, section 3. Let me go in here and pull this up real fast. All right, here we go. So, first thing, as the emperor of China, Kublai Khan founded what dynasty? What dynasty did Kublai Khan found? And again, don't be afraid to say something and answer right there. Yes, the Yuan dynasty. Very good. Okay, Yuan dynasty. Kublai Khan was the grandson of who? Who's he the grandson of? Genghis. There we go. Genghis Khan. All right, it says, unlike his ancestors, Kublai Khan, instead of living on the steppes, the plains, he lived where? Where did he live most of his days at? He went in there and ruled governmentally there. Where did he live at? What country do we know it as today? Okay, well, that was one of them. But they actually held on to power until around the 1400s there. All right, so what major country did Kublai Khan live in? China. There we go. So he lived in China. As the emperor of China, Kublai Khan built a new capital, and the palace of the site is in what modern major city? Hitler. Beijing. There we go. Good. Beijing was the major modern day city. Kublai Khan assumed the title of Great Khan, a role that in theory placed him in control of the entire what empire? What empire was Kublai Khan the ruler of? What empire did he rule? They rode horses, moved around. Mongols, yes. He was the Mongol leader. Genghis Khan, Kublai Khan, all the Khans were leaders of the Mongols. Let's see. Up until World War II, the largest seaborne invasion in history was one that the Mongols launched against what island country? They tried it twice and it failed. Had a rugged terrain. It's right beside China. Japan. There we go. Good. So they tried to invade China or Japan twice. Didn't work out for them. In 1368, the last Mongol Khan of China was overthrown and power was seized by what people? Who seized power from the Mongols after they fell? Who seized power from the Mongols after they fell? Remember, the rebels started to unite, fight back against the Mongols, and eventually, what's that? They were, but what country were they from? China. So they were the Chinese people. Okay, so the Chinese people were the ones that rebelled back against the Mongols. All right. Let's see. Under Mongol rule, most of the highest government positions were awarded to two people, the Mongols and who? And it was not the Chinese, because remember, they didn't want to put them in power because they might rebel. So Mongols and who were in power? Foreigners. Exactly, Miss Barba. The foreigners were in charge. They would rather have somebody else from out of the country in charge of the Chinese than the Chinese, so then that way they would not rebel. All right. Who was the famous explorer? He was from Europe. He went to China. He visited. He went back to Italy. He told them all about it. Hitler. Marco Polo. What is the famous trading road known as that went through China? Many travelers, Mongols, and others continued to use it, connected China all the way to Europe. What's that known as? The trading route. Again, famous road. It wasn't really a road, but it was a traveling route. Silk Road, exactly. The Silk Road was the trading, basically interstate for all of Chinese trade, Mongol trade through the time all the way back to Europe right there. Okay, good. So good. So that's section 3. I'm going to read you a quick preview kind of how Japan goes. And this goes into section 4. One of the really important things about this is to kind of understand how this sets forth the idea of the world wars and kind of why Japan was so isolated. It says Japanese civilization was shaped by cultural borrowing from China. So they didn't want to be China, but they wanted to emulate China. So they would actually send people over from Japan to China to learn their ways and customs and come back and kind of emulate that. The rise of feudalism and military rulers would go along. It says Japan gained from its location. It was near enough to China to benefit the influence of Chinese culture. It was also far enough to be able to protect itself from complete Chinese domination. Japan is not one island, but several thousand islands of varying sizes And most people, though they live on the four of the largest of them, the islands have few natural resources, such as coal and oil. Remember, they're also very rugged. They're made basically of volcanic islands. They have a lot of mountainous terrain that's there. The mountains leave little land that can be used for farming. Early in its history, Japan was broken up into many small areas, each led by a clan. These clans believed in their own gods. Later, all these beliefs were combined to form Japan's religion, the Shinto. The main ideas of the Shinto were to respect the forces of nature and the ancestors of family. In the AD 400s, the Yamato became the most powerful of these clans. They claimed that they were descendants from the sun goddess. Later, the Yamato leaders began to call themselves emperors, and the emperor remained an important figure in Japan. Even when other groups took control of the government, they retained the position of emperor and said that they were in power and they were the ruling name. During the 400s, Japan began to feel the influence of Chinese culture. Buddhism began to travel from China to Japan and became a really important religion in the land of Japan. The emperor sent people to China to learn the Chinese ways and to actually bring them back and implement the culture and the ways of China. The Japanese adapted and adopted the ideas of Chinese writing, painting, and other parts of Chinese culture. Around the late 800s, the Japanese stopped sending people to China to learn from Chinese culture. From 794 to 1185, Japan's noble family ruled the country from its capital. This era represented the peak of Japanese culture, when the people of the court led lives of complex rituals, careful manners, and artistic good taste. Women, writers of the time, provided a new detail of this refined court life. So it was very documented, so therefore it makes it into the idea of history. Over time, the power of the emperor declined. The nobles with large land holdings began to assert their power. So these people with money, most of the time you can only gain the power and the land by actually fighting. Well, they weren't going to be people that actually went and fought. So they hired out people called samurais. They bought their own armies. All right, so that way they could defend themselves and conquer others. They hired private armies, and these soldiers began to terrorize farmers for protection. The farmers gave up some of their land to those lords so they could continue on with their daily life. Thus began a time of local power like Europe's Middle Ages. So feudalism is a big word that you need to know from there. The local lords used a group of trained soldiers called samurais to protect them. The samurais followed a strict code of honor. There's a really interesting book. It's really small, quick, brief deals. It's called The Code of the Samurai, a lot like Confucianism, but you could still use some of those ideas and live your life today that same way. After a period of war, one of these lords arose as the most powerful. The emperor named him the shogun, or superior general of the emperor's army. While the emperor remained in power and name, the new shogun ran the country. This pattern was followed in Japan from 1192 to 1868. The shoguns led a defense of Japan against invasions of the Mongols from China. All right. So that kind of wraps up as an intro to chapter 12, section 4. You'll go to your PowerPoint spot in Canvas under modules for chapter 12. It'll be slides 21 through 28. Again, continue to add through those so you will have this for your test on Wednesday. On Monday, we'll go section 5. We'll review section 4. And we'll get ready for your test on Wednesday. Anybody have any questions? Everybody good? All right. Make sure you're staying on top of that and have good, well thought out notes that go into it. Again, it'll be very beneficial for you whenever the test comes. All right. Get after it.